Oh, wait, maybe not.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good, George.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Pastor Cooper, Reverend Cooper, if you could come up and lead us in the invocation.
Praise God. Please remain standing. Father God, we just worship you. We bless and adore you. We thank you for this day, O God, that you made for us to rejoice and be exceedingly glad in. We ask, O God, that you would just bless the board with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and bless the citizens of this great town, O God, with more wisdom, O God, with understanding, with ideas, O God, to come forth to make this a beautiful town that the coming generation can enjoy and find peace. We ask, oh God, that there'll be a meeting of minds tonight, Lord God, that you may be glorified. We thank you for protecting this town, keeping us from hurt, harm, and danger. We thank you, oh God, for providing for us, oh God. We thank you for the people that you have brought into the town to rejoice and to enjoy the amenities of this town. And we ask that you will continue to watch over us, oh God. And we continue to give you the praise, the glory, and the honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Cooper from House of Praise in Riverhead. Thank you. Okay. We don't have any proclamations today. My goodness, Larry Sims is here. That's like a blast from the past. Hold on to your seatbelts. Okay, John.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the town board meeting on August 4th, 2015. So moved.
and seconded?
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabriel Sims.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
John Levy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Under agenda items, under applications, the Long Island Beer Company is planning on having a halfway to St. Patrick's Party, September 19th. Long Island Abate is planning a motorcycle run, toy and food drive, November 8th. Under reports, Town Clerk Monthly Report for July, $10,415.51. Under correspondence, Ashley Holmes, a letter offering to transfer the deed for a right-of-way easement to the town of Riverhead. Eugene Laferno, a submission of additional documentation and illustration to his Cupola project at 162 Founders Path in Calverton. And the Conservation Advisory Council correspondence was for Resolution 11 of 2015 for East End Commons.
Okay. Any other committee minutes, meeting minutes? Not minutes,
Well,
committee.
we got the cardboard boat race coming up Sunday, so it's last call, get those boats built.
Working on it.
You working on yours? You got started, it's a little late.
I've
She will be here.
I've subcontracted out once again, so.
Oh, okay.
I did, although I did stop at Gabrielson's to pick up some pumpkin boxes today, so.
Wait to see this. I seen that door open, I said, oh, she
I
wants
put
me
it,
here.
no, I put it back, it
You
was
did?
wide open,
Oh, was
somebody
it?
had it.
She
on
maybe
my-
came after that, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody beat you to it. I don't know,
All
I see a
right.
bunch of them sitting back there.
I don't know, maybe you see somebody from the Suffolk PBA back there too. All right, anybody else? Not seeing anybody, let's get started. Oh, that's me. We've got four public hearings. First public hearing is scheduled for 7:05, and that's a consideration of a proposed local law amending Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, supplemental use regulations, non-conforming buildings, and it is now 7:06. We'll open that public hearing. And this, Bob, if I'm not mistaken, this is somewhat of a housekeeping measure. Are you familiar with this, or do you want to?
This came from the building department. I know that you guys had a discussion at work session. The first change is proposed in subsection A, where the words expanded are being included in addition to extension in order to capture any extension as well as expansion, and the question of whether there's a need for a special permit from the board, and then the housekeeping included removal of the provision single-family residence, and added those to subsection A.
All right, so I think what this is trying to do is when the town rezoned everything in 2004 and 5, most of the hamlets are non-conforming, all the houses are non-conforming lots. So when you are doing an extension, it's very difficult to satisfy 2-acre zoning when you're on a third of an acre lot or side yard and front yard or rear yard setbacks. So what this is a little bit more artfully, the last time it was very inartful, a little more artfully saying that you, if you're a CO'd house or you have a letter LP, a letter of pre-existing use, your setbacks in your area will go by the previous zoning. Because it's, obviously you're not meeting 2-acre zoning and side yard and rear yard and various setbacks for 2-acre zoning. Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter?
Vito, South Jamesport. I have a question. Will this, if the piece of property at the time of the rezoning here in the town was owned by owner A and they sell it now today in 2015 to owner B after you change this, does this apply to them and they get the same benefits as the owner?
Yes.
Who originally?
Yeah. What we're trying to do is, because if we don't have, and this is how we're applying it now, if you don't have this provision, then almost, I'm going to say it, 70% of the residences in the town, just to do a minor building extension, house has to go to the ZBA because they can't meet the zoning. So we're actually applying this section of the code because it sort of says it right above it, but they didn't like the way it was, doesn't read the way it should. So this is the practice that the building department uses now, and as long as it's a CO'd or an LPE, a letter of pre-existing non-conforming house, doesn't matter who the owner is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Neiman, Calverton.
Good afternoon, evening.
The same thing that Angela was referring to, this same proposal, does this open it up for residential only, or is this also for commercial?
It's residential.
This is the way it was before. Let's see. Single family residence.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Linda Nemeth, Calverton?
Single family residence.
That's all that is all it is in reference to. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to be heard? All right, not seeing anybody. We will close the public comment portion and leave it open for written comments until, I don't want to guess, what's the 18th to 28th of August, 4:30 in the town clerk's office. Okay, second public hearing was scheduled for 7:10, and it is now 7:10. Excuse me. It's now 7:10. We're going to open up a public hearing for the consideration of a proposed local law to amend Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, Farm Stand Review. And George, you want to talk about this?
Yes. This is one of two public hearings we have tonight concerning expedited site plan review for farm stands. And the farm community and the Farm Ag Advisory Committee's worked on this for a few years, and I think they've finally landed where we should be. Anne Marie Prudenti's here today, and she worked on the legislation, and we got Dave McLaren that would get up to speak, chairman of the Ag Advisory Committee. And basically the purpose and intent is, and I'm just going to read this will give us an idea why we're here. As reflected in the town's 2004 comprehensive master plan and various provisions of the town code, the town of Riverhead seeks to not only preserve the prime agricultural soils, but to encourage, promote, and support farming and the local farm economy. This article is designated to provide a mechanism to reduce costs and expedite farm stand review for a limited number of direct farm marketing techniques to enable local farmers and growers to market their agricultural products directly to consumers and in turn bolster the local economy. So I know Dave wanted to make an opening statement on this. He's chairman of the Ag Advisory Committee, and he's worked on this for a couple of years.
All right, Mr. McLaren, come on up.
Then I'd like to call Anne Marie up to give some of the details of the legislation
Okay.
that she wrote.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My
Dave
name is
McLaren?
Dave McLaren. I'm from Jamesport. I've been farming for about 45 years from the West Coast out here to the East Coast, and I've been actively involved in the farming community here, and recently working on this project, gathering input from all the local farmers as much as possible, and working hard to try to do what's best to sustain agriculture as we know it in Riverhead Town while we're running out of land, for development. And the commerce that stands at risk now needs to be, sustained as much as possible. So this code itself that we've adopted or planning to adopt addresses protecting the land, keeping the commerce alive, and keeping the rural character of Riverhead Town for next generations to come. So that's the main objective of it, is to keep agriculture alive here. It's a huge huge industry here, and we've been losing it a little at a time, but it was here 150 years before this became a nation, back in the 1600s, so we'd like to keep it going, further, so.
Oh,
Okay.
Dave, thanks. Anne Marie Parenti, do you want to? Anne Marie is our deputy town attorney.
Essentially what this legislation provides is an expedited mechanism for review. It would be a total of 90 days from beginning to end. The first 30-day period, it would go to review to either the Ag Advisory or the Farmland Committee. Thereafter, the Planning Department would refer to the Planning Board with those comments from the Agricultural Advisory Committee or Farmland Committee, and thereafter the Planning Board would have 60 days from beginning to end to review, approve, deny, set conditions. In addition,
Oh, an expedited review.
right, in addition, it sets forth the criteria that the applicant must submit, including a sketch plan, plot plan, and it includes that the application must adhere to all of the zoning requirements that include setbacks, parking, lighting, etc.
Is the second public hearing related to this one? It looks like it is, for the sale of retail homegrown homemade products, provided that all retail uses shall be subject to the approval Riverhead Town Code. Should I open this with the other one?
Are you really? Yeah, because the first one's supporting the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we can open them both.
This,
Yeah, if I could just look at that one.
Okay.
this is reducing the 7 acres.
Do you want to? You haven't looked at this? I just thought they were related. I was
They
going to
are.
open them both so we could take at the same time. And just, I think they're related. You can tell me.
Yes. Because the definitions in the second one are in the first. The Article 25. They refer back to 25. You see the strikeouts? Basically, yes.
It is.
Right.
Okay, so why don't I do that? I don't think there's any issue. We can open this one simultaneously.
Yes.
That one, the second public hearing was scheduled for 7:15. It is now 7:15, and we're going to open the public hearing. Anne Marie just took it from me, so, okay. That's fine. The consideration of a proposed local law amending Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, Agricultural Protection Zone. It is now 7:15. We'll now open that public hearing as well. So, Anne Marie, did you want to say anything about this?
Yeah.
And we can take comments on both.
This is an amendment to the Agricultural Protection Zone, which currently requires a 7-acre minimum. Instead, what the amendment would include, that provided you meet the criteria set forth in this proposed amendment, Article 25 Farm Stand Review, you would be eligible and entitled to avail yourself of this zoning code provision.
And I think the 7-acre only pertains to the APZ. It seems to have been
Correct.
done, I don't know,
Right.
6, 8 years ago. And maybe you can point out, Anne Marie, the existing areas that you can go in at 2-acre. I think RB80 is one of them. It's allowed at
Right.
2-acre zoning.
If the town board will recall, during work session, I reported to the town board that the 7-acre minimum only appeared in the APZ zoning district. But in the residential, Hamlet Center, Industrial A and Industrial C, they all permitted accessory agricultural production and farm stands as an accessory use without the 7-acre minimum. And in those zoning districts, you're ranging anywhere from 80,000 square feet to 5,000.
There was no minimum as far as lot
None.
coverage? Zero. None?
Correct.
There was no minimum for agricultural production as a permitted use, but it
Or-
didn't mention farm stand in those particular zoning districts, did it?
Yes, it did.
Okay, where,
And no minimum.
and what's the section?
You want me to quote the zoning code?
No,
I could
just if you-
probably quote a few of them.
Well, I mean, do you have the zoning code in front of you? I mean, if you don't, yeah, it's a little difficult.
But I guess we can say what this says now. We
But
would change that.
all these districts say that you can have a farm stand, RE8 or RB80.
Yeah, if I
Hamlet
may, I
residential,
could hand you
Hamlet
up an example, which is Residence A80, if you'd like to take a look.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also have Hamlet Residential for you, if you'd like to look at that. as an
I don't-
example.
I'm just looking through here for the permitted uses, and then also the accessory uses. And for accessory, it says the sale at retail of homegrown or homemade products, provided that all retail uses shall be subject to site plan.
Exactly, there's
That's
no
retail.
7-acre minimum.
Okay, so you just, the farm stand isn't spelled out in here, so we're just gonna, are we gonna put that in there?
Well, if the town board approves this zoning code amendment,
Then we'll add farm stands to all of those zoning use
correct,
districts?
to make it consistent. But if the town board chooses not to adopt this, there's no reason to propose those amendments to the districts that I just outlined.
Got it.
But
I mean, there was
but-
support for this a couple of years ago, and I was the one that wasn't supporting it. I
But
think
we
this
told-
side of the table was supporting it.
But with the new legislation, because we always had this thing about 2-acre zoning, we were
Right.
concerned about the RB80. The new zoning would say the lot has to exceed the minimum lot size for the zoning district. So you can't go, so we'd take it out of the RBA for all practical purposes. There may be a lot here and there, but that would pretty much take it out.
I have no problem with it, I was just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would take it out now of these areas
It
pretty much.
also requires that the principal use on the property be agricultural production.
Right.
But not simply agricultural production, crop production.
Right.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll open it up to the residents.
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton.
How you doing, Sal?
Good. This public hearing is on expediting farm stand review. Does farm stand review imply all of the U-pick fields as well? I mean, if you apply for a farm stand, does that give you authority to open up 6 or 7 U-pick fields any place you want? How do we address the parking problems at U-pick fields if the farm stand doesn't include them? You understand what I'm asking?
I understand completely.
Anne Marie,
I mean,
she can address that because we do, it's in here.
It does address it.
So she can, maybe Anne Marie come up and she can.
If I may, it does address it, and pursuant to this proposed code provision, again, it's a site plan that has to be submitted, which would be reviewed. So that area where you propose the U-pick operation is required to be identified on the plot plan, and if there's any structural improvements that, even like a cashier booth, that would have to be identified, and parking and ingress and egress would be required, and planning board would have to approve it just like a site plan. This is just an expedited process.
It's interesting because those U-pick fields don't probably do anything because they're all pretty much pre-existing.
so we don't address the pre-existing ones?
I'm not sure. Is this going to push?
I guess what I
Henry, you
heard
should
is-
just stay up
No,
front.
it would just, yeah.
I guess what I heard is if somebody new comes to apply for a farm stand, one of the requirements is that they have to identify where their U-pick fields are going to be, and they have to provide plots and plans for those fields, including parking, egress, etc.
That's what it sounds like.
Yep.
And what the town attorney's hand
Plot
shaking
plan,
her head.
sketch, yes, yes,
Okay.
everything.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Sims.
Larry Sims, South Jamesport. Thank you for combining the hearings. I think it simplifies life. I'm going to start out by saying the things that I don't have any issue with at all. I agree 100% with the stated objectives of Mr. McLaren. No exception. It sounds great. I don't see any inherent problems with an expedited review process. And I certainly favor legislation that will equalize things between the APZ, where there are pretty severe restrictions on how much land you need, and all the other zones where there are no restrictions. I have concerns about other things. Now, I missed the meeting where this was first discussed, but I read all the comments that were reported. I agree with many of those, like sustaining the small guy, allowing 4- and 5-acre farms to open their doors, no issue. A couple of other comments were unclear, two in particular. One said this legislation won't create a lot of new farms. Another said it will help out future small farms. I'm confused by that. Now, because code changes can have large and sustained impact, I think it's important to look at the details. And I read through this legislation and realized that it doesn't do the things that I have heard this board saying it does, or the board wants it to do, but it does a lot of other things. So I'm going to outline as briefly as possible why I think, as it stands, this is a bad piece of legislation with potential to hurt established farmers and cause serious damage to our economy. I remembered that this was discussed in 2012, in January. At that discussion, one of you said, Sean, I think it was you, that it would open a loophole that could lead to pizza and sushi being sold as farm products. Another comment was that as written at the time, I could drive a truck through this. One of you expressed concern about 97 parcels in the APZ that are between 2 and 7 acres, saying, why include these parcels in the APZ if they can't use them? I'll come back to that. The first thing I wanted to do was make a comparison, and I got a timely response to my FOIL request, but it appears that no one in Town Hall has the legislation that was proposed in 2012. Fortunately, the news review coverage of these meetings is stellar, and their archive is good, and I was able to get a copy there. So here's what we have. We have a law today that is 1 paragraph and 85 words. And it defines the ratio of on-farm products to supporting products and explains how it's measured by shelf space, the percent of merchandising area. In 2012, the proposal was also 1 paragraph, 165 words, and it added language to allow farm stands on parcels 2 or more acres, provided that the same farm operation had other acreage within Riverhead so that there would be a total of 7. Didn't have to be on the 7-acre parcel, but you still had to have 7 acres. The definition of 60% on-farm product in the merchandising area was the same, no change. Now we're looking at 57 paragraphs, 2,372 words. It's obviously gotten a little complex. What's most critical to me is what's missing, and that is a definition of the ratio of on-farm products to, quote, locally produced and enhanced products. The shelf space or merchandising area ratio is gone. It's not the only way to measure. You could measure by dollar value at retail. You could use dollar value at wholesale. You could use volume. You could use weight. There are many standards that could be fairly and uniformly applied, but there are none in the code as it sits. So that's the first thing that I think needs to be adjusted. The idea of maintaining 60% on-farm content is still there. It's just not enforceable as written. There are a couple other major problems, and this is not intended to be comprehensive. These are the things that I think are most important. First among those is the definition of local. I've done a little research, and all the farm stand codes I've seen allow a portion of the goods sold to originate off the farm, as long as they are locally grown. In Southold, local is defined as grown by a bona fide farmer within Southold town. In Suffolk County, which applies on land owned by the county or without intact development rights, local means anything grown anywhere within 4 neighboring counties: Suffolk, Nassau, Kings, and Queens. In the proposal we're looking at, local is defined as within a 250-mile radius of the farm, which means all or part of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. That's 12 states. Now, to me, that definition is ludicrous. And it applies not only to what's grown on the farm, but to the enhanced agricultural products that may be sourced and sold at the farm stand. I think that if the intent is to allow farm stands to sell anything from anywhere, which is essentially what we're talking about, that's a huge radius, then lose the pretense of calling it local. Just leave it out, because it doesn't do anything. Next item. Non-agricultural related products, for example, flower pots if you're selling flowers or bulbs, are expressly allowed. That's consistent with the other codes that I've seen and with Ag and Markets law. I have no issue with that. In Southold, accessory items are counted in the 40% of products that are sourced off-farm. In Suffolk County, agricultural related products are counted in the 40% of products that are sourced off-farm. In the proposed code we're looking at, non-agricultural products are expressly excluded from 40% off-farm allowance, which means that they count against the 60% that is supposed to be on-farm. Additionally, there's no limit on the volume, however it's measured, of non-agricultural products. So what does that mean? It means you can get 40% of your goods, whether grown or enhanced agricultural products, processed foods, off the farm, no question. The 60% that remains could be a couple bushels of corn that the farmer grows on farm. And the other 59% could be decorative containers or other non-agricultural products. It's simply not defined. It needs to be fixed. The biggest concern I have is a paragraph in the definitions called principal use. And I read this 5 or 6 times, and a little embarrassed, I called the Riverhead assessor. And we discussed this paragraph for the better part of an hour, including especially 2 things. One is the calculation of parcel size if there's a residence on the lot. The other is why it specifically allows not just the New York State Department of Tax and Finance, but DEC, USDA, or any local or state agency to determine what's a farm. Language used is certifying that the land is in bona fide agricultural production. As it stands, the law would allow the ZBA, or the Planning Board, or the Landmarks Commission to make these decisions. Anybody. The language, any local entity, is pretty broad. So, with the assessor, I think one of Riverhead's most knowledgeable and expert administrators, I concluded 3 things. One is that there are internal inconsistencies here which can't be resolved. 2, there are many elements that are subject to a wide range of interpretations. 3, it's unenforceable. Now, whether I'm standing at this podium or writing op-eds, I never speculate on motives. I'm not going to start today. What I do is examine the facts and look ahead and try to project consequences. And I see 3 salient consequences here. First, if you pass this law as written, the glass greenhouse instantly becomes legal. All the time, effort, and money that the town has invested trying to force that operation to comply with our laws today will have been wasted because the complaint will be made obsolete by the new code. I think it's worth mentioning that as we debate this, the Glass Greenhouse has a pending application for a liquor license. And if that's granted, it will be even less of a farm stand than it is today, in my eyes. Second consequence, and I have no idea whether this will happen or not, but if Jay King's wants to build a 30,000 square foot cider tasting room in a big industrial warehouse, he could now do it because he could call it a farm stand. Third consequence, existing farmers with farm stands will be hurt and agritourism will be damaged. I'll explain that. I'd like you to remember that I have no direct stake in this legislation. I am not looking to open a farm stand. I live in a neighborhood where a quarter-acre lot is an exception. Most lots are smaller. I don't think anybody's going to open one next door. Unlike, I think, most of the people in this room, I'm not running for office. I'm simply, my sole interest is protecting the rural nature of our larger community, exactly as Mr. McLaren stated. That's what motivated me to come here 16 years ago. And to me, protecting that community means protecting the interests of farmers. A brief aside, I haven't done an exhaustive survey, but I know of some farmers that are afraid to speak publicly on this issue. I know of many that have no idea that something of this magnitude and scope is on the table. So if nothing else, I suggest and ask that you allow more time for people to make their opinions known. How is this going to impact farmers and the economy? Well, let's look back to the 2012 discussion about the 97 parcels in the APZ between 2 and 7 acres for two reasons. The question asked then was, why include these parcels in the APZ if they can't use them? Now, no one is saying they can't use their land. The laws that exist today, as I understand it, which I presume was enacted by a prior board for good reason, doesn't say that farmers can't farm. It simply says not all of them are entitled to open retail stores on their property. That's a huge difference. Second, if any of you or anyone here thinks that 97 new farm stands along Sound Avenue and Main Road, and if you pass the legislation as it is written today, there will be no excuse or means to stop them. If you think that 97 new farm stands won't impact farmers with established retail businesses, I'm sorry, but I think you're misguided. A few years back, I wrote about a zero-sum game. The issue then was the village at Jamesport. And I was referring to upscale restaurants. And I interviewed 4 owners of upscale restaurants about the danger of laws that meddle with the marketplace. 2 of those 4 restaurants, Country Kitchen and Bayview Inn, are now failed. It wasn't a result of the special permits by this board because the 2 new bistros that were allowed were never built. It was strictly market forces, supply and demand. As a business owner, I understand those risks. And the restaurant owners understood those risks and didn't come complaining to the board when the restaurants failed. And that kind of risk is without question something that every farmer knows and understands and lives with. I can't fathom the risks that farmers face every day trying to stay afloat. While I haven't studied the market formally, and I don't know what our saturation point is for farm stands, if we're not there now, we're damn close. Everyone I know, residents and business owners alike, worry about the traffic and the capacity of our roads in season. And if people if people now able to operate stands with the current law in the APZ, build new stands or expand stands, other farmers are likely to see a sales downturn as a result. That's the way free markets work. But if you use your legislative power to change the playing field and allow 97 new farm stands where none can be built today, then the harm done to farmers is on this board. And the damage done to our agriculture and tourism-based economy with Main Road and Sound Avenue looking like Route 58, too many stores selling stuff that was not grown here, that was not produced here. That also would be on this board. I'm going to leave you with a challenge. I ask that you read Suffolk County Local Law 44-2013. Now, the sections of that law dealing with farm stands are just a few pages long. They describe how big a farm stand can be, what it can sell, how much space can be devoted to processing the food for sale, what kinds of enhanced agricultural products may be sold, with laudable clarity and precision. It's easy to understand and it makes sense. More important than the fact that it makes sense to me is that I've talked to people at the county, and they assured me that the law was prepared with assistance and approval by the Farm Bureau, and they think every agricultural advisory committee on the North Fork. That was less than 2 years ago. So if you read it, I think you need to explain to Riverhead citizens and taxpayers why that's not good enough for us, at least as a baseline, to be adapted for any special circumstances that you see. And I'd like to understand why it was ignored, along with recent code approved by neighboring towns, with us trying to reinvent the wheel with legislation that's convoluted and unenforceable. That's too complex for some of Riverhead's best to understand and interpret. Our future is at risk with this, and I think we need and deserve better. I thank you for your time. I would be glad, as I think you know, to volunteer to assist with the drafting of legislation that would address these critical points.
Larry, would you like to, do you have written comments you want to submit, or is that was just
This is it.
stream of consciousness? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can answer some of these questions. Anne Marie, they're all addressed here. I won't make the comments now, we'll wait till everyone's
Yeah, I
finished.
guess we'll wait till
Okay.
we get through.
Yeah, 'cause it's
Anne Marie,
mostly
I guess
work.
take some notes.
Linda Nemeth again, Calverton. I want to thank Mr. Sims for all that he said. He basically cut my throat in what I was going to say for the most part, but I'm glad he did so. I have several questions and concerns. One major one is the existing farmers and farm stands. If you get every little pop-up stand around to sell their eggs and their whatever products, goat's milk, whatever is coming in, I think you're going to start stripping down all of the people who've spent their lives farming and their lives building a business, and you're allowing little pop-ups to take over. Perhaps they're a few pennies less. Perhaps they're closer to your house, so you don't have to drive as far. But I think it does tremendous damage to the established farmers. The other thing I'm noticing on several occasions is that there are these roadside pop-up stands, no parking, nothing. A house is on a piece of property, somebody buys it, they cut down all the trees on their property, which is maybe 2 acres, I'm not even sure. They plant some fruit trees in the front, they fence in an area and have some goats on one side, and they put a cooler in the street. And these items are for sale, as well as canned items. I'm concerned about not only the safety and the traffic safety, but the health of people in the area who might buy products that perhaps have not been tested. I don't know whether they're under some kind of a health code law, but those things concern me. And I don't know if those are legal, if they just pop up, and it's for me just to give to you at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good evening. My name is Abra Morowick, and I am in Jamesport. Larry and Linda have very eloquently expressed all of my concerns with this proposed legislation, so I would simply like to, as a young woman farmer, express some opinions that I have, particularly in terms of local produce and the definition of that is going to be passed in the legislation. I've been working here on the east end of Long Island farming for about 5 years now as an apprentice and now also as a farmer. And I believe that local produce is dependent upon the production of a capacity of a region. Why cheapen the diversity of the town of Riverhead's farms with goods being shipped from hundreds of miles away? We as a community already grow an array of agricultural goods, tree and stone fruits, vegetables, dairy. We have a raw milk farm that's New York State permitted that sells raw milk. And their farm has been here for generations. If you go further east, you can purchase chicken produced here on Long Island. You can purchase pork produced here on Long Island, beef, all raised on the East End. Why would you cheapen the reputation of farmers and the families of farmers? Eventually, the consumer is going to catch on that the pink lady apple that they're holding in their hand at some cidery is actually from the Finger Lakes. And that's really going to blow up in our face. People are going to come here expecting apples grown on Long Island and actually get apples that are grown in Maine or Vermont or wherever 250 miles spans. It's a cruel trick, and it'll certainly backfire and compromise everything that we have worked for. And as far as I'm concerned, if you intend to sell agricultural products not grown on your farm, then you do not run a farm stand, you run a store. If you intend to sell produce locally grown within 250 miles of this town, then you're going to be supporting places like New Jersey and Connecticut, and that is no way supporting local farmers. That would not be supporting me. I didn't grow that. So I don't know how that would benefit me. That's all I really have to say.
Just out of curiosity, what produce do you grow, or what do you grow?
Currently, I work for Browder's Birds, so we do pasture-raised chicken and eggs and cheese as well. I work for Biophilia Organic Farm, and we grow over 300 different varieties of organic produce, herbs, fruits, vegetables. And I will also be opening my own farm to do pasture-raised game birds, including quail and pheasant and guinea fowl.
Well, thank you for your comments.
If I could just step in and answer a question, and Marie's going to answer at the end. We talk about the 40% being local produced agriculture outside of the 60% you grow. What happens on many of the farm stands? Say a farmer grows 60%, but he doesn't grow corn. So he buys it in, and almost every farm stand does, buys it in supporting another farmer that doesn't have a farm stand.
Well, then that should be a store.
Sure, I'm saying so that.
I understand.
No,
What
you know
I'm
how many
saying-
farms? No, how many farms go out of business right now?
I work for a farm that does that. Biophilia Organic Farm sells everything from its farm stand, and everything is grown on the farm. There's an example
But
for
we
you.
have a whole industry of farmers out there now. You can't ship to New York. That market is gone. We have farmers that are growing produce that the only outlet for them is not at their farm stand to send it to other farm stands. So we're saving those.
Then
We're
the
actually saving those
250 Then
farm
the
stands.
250 miles needs to be greatly reduced.
Okay, now the reason the 250 mile was put in there, because we talked to the Ag Advisory Committee, is, what typically happens is, through the years, we've had a pumpkin failure along now, and they get a blight. Okay, a big part of our agri-tourism is the pumpkin season.
Okay.
So the farmers are generally bringing them in from Pennsylvania to save the season. That's pretty much what
So
that
what
was
you're
all
saying
about.
is these
So
farms
if
are
you have
too
a
big to
crop
fail,
failure,
so
you
they
can't go
have
out
to
of
bring in
business.
produce from other places because they're too big to fail. That's the whole part of farming. As a farmer, we take on risks.
Ag and
Do you,
markets
do you
talks about
understand?
60/40,
We take
it's not
on
just Riverhead.
risks. Sometimes
Right.
our winter squash doesn't come through because we get downy mildew, and our CSA members don't get squash that year.
Right.
And that's the risk that they take with us. That's
but
community-supported agriculture.
But the agritourism, and the state encourages, this is nothing new from Riverhead. I would not want to close down our pumpkin season because crop failure. That's what they're looking for. Just, they're not looking to do this as a general
Then maybe
rule.
maybe you don't
happens.
need to grow pumpkins. Maybe you should grow something else. If the climate changes and you are unable to produce a product that you want to grow, then perhaps it is a good business idea to adapt and change to the
You know what it
business
is?
climate.
People love pumpkin, sorry. It's gonna happen whether we like it or not.
So
It's
they
a
can get their
pumpkin
pumpkins
season.
at Stop and Shop.
It's not often. Every 5 years or so, a blight comes through like it's done on.
Sir, then they can get their pumpkins at Stop and Shop,
there's
as
a way
far
to
as
get-
I'm
there's
concerned.
Stop and Shop?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I
They sell-
encourage your
they sell
local farm
pumpkins at
stand
Stop
and
Shop.
not Stop and Shop.
All right,
Then they should
okay.
grow locally. Then
Okay, we
if
got
you
it.
I
wanna
think
do-
there's an easy fix here, because if we were to or adopt a Suffolk County type code, and I looked at that code when it was written 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Forgive me, I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but there's a way to fix that, because we could leave a provision in the code that if you weren't going 250 miles, but if there was a proven blight or something that required.
Which happens, right?
Yeah, that we could
Of
go.
course it happens, but like I
But
said,
that would
if,
be the exception to go out of the,
as a business owner, if you grow year after year a crop that fails, do you keep growing that crop?
No
Because
one
that's
said it
what
fails
everybody
year after year.
wants?
We've
That's what I
had a
don't
blight come in
understand.
and knock out the impatiens crop.
Okay, well,
These things happen.
I suppose then that you could perhaps diversify your farm and not just have one product.
or
do.
we could have a provision
Right,
in
well,
the
if you
code.
diversify your farm and you have one crop that fails, then hopefully if you are a good business owner, you will have other crops that will float you through the season.
A pumpkin
This is
season
why
is
this-
a pumpkin season. We can go around circles with this. It's
All
not
right,
going
we're
away.
gonna, we're
I don't wanna
there's
get into
There's
it, yeah,
a way to
that's-
fix it, because we don't have to have it that large, the distance that large.
Yeah,
But
it's-
we
it's
can protect the
unacceptable.
farmer, because we don't wanna see anybody fail, and that happens periodically with a
Absolutely.
very simple fix. And the simple fix is if there is
Crop
an ag
failure.
and market crop determined failure, I'm not, ag and market wouldn't be the one that I'd wanna use, but if we could determine there was a crop failure,
Okay.
and there was a way to save a season, well, then that would be the area we'd go further. But not, as a general rule, I think that 250, I understand what George is talking about, because I've
It's
seen
not
it.
often, but it happens.
And we don't want that to happen. We want to have the ability to protect against that, but I don't think we need to leave it open 250.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I do have one last question. So if we are to buy in produce and sell them at farm stands, who will regulate what is bought in and what is not bought in? How will people, who is going to regulate this? How are we going to keep records of this? Because people can buy in stuff and not say that it's not theirs. They could totally pawn it off as theirs. So who will regulate this?
The regulated, that's a difficult thing, and that's what Mr. Sims touched on. The regulations become very difficult in enforceability because the town has its 60/40, Ag and Markets has its 60/40. Our town interpretation of 60/40 and Ag and Markets interpretation of 60/40 diverge greatly. So I'm going to tell you that if you ask Ag and Markets a question on the 60/40, you're going to get a completely different answer than asking probably any municipality on the East End. So I don't know that's a question that we're going to answer that easily.
Okay. I think that's something, though, that we really do need to address, is
Well,
being
the
able
Ag
to...
and Markets would
if
be
we're-
the Ag and Markets would be much more in favor of what I think you're opposed to. That would be my assumption, just based on what you're saying and what I've seen with the Ag and Markets. You could really drive, I shouldn't say it again because Larry will quote me 2 years from now, a truck through Ag and Markets.
Sure.
So, and that's how, so I don't know that we won't solve that problem, but I think we can talk about the 250, we can talk about pumpkin blight or whatever it is, and we can, tweak some things that make that work, and we can look at the Suffolk County Code to see, if there's things in there that we need to be addressing.
My main issue is the reputation of farmers. I mean, if you are somebody who's known for growing chickens and you buy in chickens from somewhere else, and then somebody hears about that, I mean, that's really my concern, is that there would not be really any regulation on this. I could buy in corn from anywhere and say it's mine, and nobody would know the difference. I would just burn those receipts, and that's very disconcerting for me.
No, I have to agree with some of it. Even when a big box supermarket store, you see a big sign that says locally grown. And it says New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. That's all considered locally grown. I support our farmers. So if you need corn, you go to a local farmer down the road, and the farm stand will get corn from him. Or tomatoes, if another farmer grows tomatoes and you don't, and you want to put them, go to a local farmer down the road.
Yes.
And you are supporting local. When I see local, I figure, oh, they're from around here, but they're not. So I do support what you said, that we should keep this in locally, not expand it out.
All right.
Well, thank you for
Thank you for
listening
your
to me. I
comments.
appreciate it.
Larry, did he?
I just got permission from
I was going to say,
Phil.
did he yield? Did Phil yield his time to you?
I just want to make one point because I was fairly astonished when I learned this. Ag and Markets does not define farm stand, and they have no regulations governing farm stand. I got this directly from their counsel. They have a definition of farm market, which is typically on municipal land, like down at the riverfront. It always involves 2 or more farmers. So they have quite a bit to say about farm market. But an individual stand run by an individual farm operation on their own land, Ag and Markets has nothing to say. There are no rules.
You're probably right, because now that you say that, I'm thinking, I'm equating farm market with farm stand.
That's a dangerous thing to do. I learned.
So we could just leave it or we codify it. We're trying to protect the farmer by not allowing these. You got to be principal. All right, we'll get into it later. The principal.
Mr. Barbado, Phil Barbado.
Phil
Jamesport.
Barbado, organic farmer, Jamesport, president of the Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition. I really can't outdo Mr. Sims. He took this apart in the proper order and presented you with some real problems that have to be addressed before you even think about passing this legislation. It is really, really inadequate, and it doesn't meet the stated purpose in the beginning of the preamble. I'm sorry. First of all, the companion legislation about reducing the size from 7 acres, I think that's a mistake. You're cheapening the APZ if you do that. The APZ is a magical place. It needs to be kept a magical place. And you're insulting the farmers who have been working hard for 100 years or more in that area if you allow small operations to take over and take business away from established farmers. The definition of locally grown is absolutely ludicrous. 250 miles? How could anyone consider that to be local? That it's not even in the same zone. It's in several zones of climate zones, okay? I don't know where that comes from. If you need pumpkins, make an exception for pumpkins, possibly, or put that in your 40%. But don't turn the definition on its ear just because you failed with one crop, maybe pumpkins, maybe corn, whatever it is. It's the cart before the horse. So that locally grown, and as was pointed out already, that there are other established jurisdictions that have made a good definition of what locally grown really is. We should follow that lead. We shouldn't try to turn this whole thing on its head. I think the definition of farm stand has some pretty gross errors in it when it's referring to, I don't have it in front of me, I wasn't able to print it out, but we're talking about certain things having to be a minimum of 40%. I think there's some clerical errors in there that should be looked at, but that's a relatively minor thing. I think, just to sum it up, I think if you're interested in creating more stores, more supermarkets, and more taverns along the main roads of the APZ, pass this legislation. That'll do it. But we don't need that. We have Route 58 already, and it's a disaster. Frankly, it's a disaster. It's going to ruin this town. Let's not take it all the way out to the APZ and make it even worse. This legislation just doesn't cut it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbado. Next.
Good evening, Greg Fisher, Calvert. Starting with a bang. There's nothing in this legislation that provides for the town's authority to audit. So how are you going to guarantee compliance? So if there's no compliance, what's the use of setting quotas of any kind or limits of any kind? As well, what is been reviewed in terms of if we did create a structure for auditing, what are the costs associated? So this is very lightly thought out so far, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Coates. You and Greg share
We
fashion?
have the same tailor. That's it. Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. My name is Anthony Coates. I live on Roanoke Avenue. Mr. Sims, when I was a boy, we used to play the game of Operation. The next time I play, I want you on my side. You took apart this legislation pretty well. But let me say a few things. We all know what we love about Riverhead. We love its natural beauty and it cherishes its way of life. But oddly enough, we may be putting all that in jeopardy by something that ironically is called a farm bill. For generations, we had large expanses of land here and open space and farmland and a hodgepodge of retail stores, and I think that retail stands, and I think that has given us the picture-perfect charm that makes Riverhead Riverhead. But I think with this legislation in mind, I think you need to take a keen look, because I think we run the danger of farm stand mini malls all across this town. Everyone here is for the farmer. The farmer has given us our way of life. The farmer gives us life. But certainly our region has also profited from agritourism dollars. But which morsel is going to be the one morsel that will kill the golden goose? You know, Yogi Berra once said, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. At what point do we eventually reach the tipping point here when too much is too much? When do we risk choking out the lifestyle that we've come to love here and hurting the very agritourism business that we seek to protect? We have two principal roadways here, and those two arteries are clogged as it is. We will be creating, I'm afraid, the exact opposite of the rural experience that brought people to come here in the first place. So in considering this farm stand bill, I think this board has to be prepared to answer a number of threshold questions. First, how many possible farms are we talking about here? How many possible farms does this change in zoning create? Second, is this change really about creating a new generation of farmers who will work the land and till the soil? Or is it more about creating kiosks that will sell trinkets for people to profit from agritourism? How many curb cuts does this change mean to an already overburdened Sound Avenue and Main Road? Do we really want quick in and out turns on and off an increasingly high-speed roadway? 4, how do we ensure that new farm stands won't be the dangerous both sides of the street kind where pedestrians and drivers wind up playing a constant game of chicken? 5, what guarantees do we have that locally grown, and this has been talked about at length, will truly mean just that? Do we run the risk of becoming a honky-tonk that sells jams from somewhere else and straw hats from China? And 250 miles is an awfully wide net to be casting from. After all, when you read the phrase homemade, whose home was it made in? Wouldn't we be better off promoting CSA cooperatives, getting the traffic off main roadways, bringing those agricultural products downtown to our farmers market, than having all parts of this town prosper from our agricultural heritage? And finally, why the rush? Whenever I see a bill that has a very compact timetable, it makes me wonder who will benefit from this and why we need to move so fast. I think this board needs to take its time to get things right, and I'm concerned what these stands will do to existing businesses. Finally, let me quote the late Buzz Schwenk, who was a wise old dairy farmer. And Buzz was fond of saying, the challenge before us in government is to keep this special place from looking like any other place. And as usual, Buzz was right. You have the power to shape this special place. I ask you to think carefully about the change in zoning, because it's in your hands what this town will look and feel like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good
Good evening.
evening. Laura Jen Smith from Laurel. I would just like to say that Mr. Sims and Mr. Coates, I would like to reiterate what they said. I'm not going to go through it all again, but I support all of the points that they made up in the questions they brought up about this legislation and the change in the zoning here. I would like to address a couple issues that I would like you, when reviewing, to also look at the zoning. I know a lot has been said about the locally grown and the definition of locally grown, and it doesn't include just a 250-mile radius around our area. It also also includes all of New York State. But then when you read through the legislation, they never use the word locally grown again. It is changed over to locally produced. So it is very hard to follow what it is talking about. So it is unclear what that actually means when you're addressing that. The other issue that I have with the zoning change is that in the criteria to be eligible for farm stand review, it says that it needs to be a bona fide agricultural production as of the date of application for farm stand review. But it doesn't put anything or any kind of covenant there that it must remain a bona fide farm. So I think that while it gets reviewed, if it's an expedited review, part of the review is that it will remain a functioning farm after it receives an approval for farm stand review. I also would like to say that I do not agree with the zoning change, and that is with the Article 6, to reduce from 7 acres down to, originally, I believe in your work session, you were talking about bringing it down from 7 acres to just over 2 acres, and that is not included in this zoning change that you have before you. So I would like to see it remain at the 7 acres. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Neil Krupnick from Northville, Sound Shore Road. I think it's pretty clear that you need to go back to the drawing board and rethink this proposal. Mr. Sims and everybody else who's spoken before me very eloquently explained why this proposal is completely full of holes and really needs to be rewritten. All of us here are in favor of supporting our local farmers, but this legislation undermines our local farmers. How can a 250-mile radius be considered local? This proposal cheapens the work of what our local farmers have been working to achieve for so many years by lowering the standards of what defines a local farm stand. It also opens the floodgates to turning the historic corridor of Sound Avenue and Main Road into virtual faux shopping centers filled with crummy farm stands. I think this could create an even greater danger on our already crowded roads and further cheapen the rural character of our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to be heard?
I just have a question. Anne Marie, did you have some answers to some of the questions? I know and Dave did. I think most of this is covered in here in a different perspective.
First and foremost, this is not a farm bill. The town of Riverhead adopted the farm bill back in 2004. And if you want to look at the farm bill, you can read chapter 44. It's set forth therein. This is an expedited site plan review. With respect to the participation of the farm community, Dave McLaren can probably speak to this best, but I can represent that all the members of the Agricultural Advisory Committee, Farmland Committee, and I believe Farm Bureau participated in this process. And their role was to come up with the recommendations, even as far as what's considered locally grown. Next, the Suffolk County Code was reviewed, and if you compare and contrast to this, you'll see that the percentages of on-farm production versus locally grown, albeit a different definition of what's locally grown, is consistent. Same with state of New York. But what the committees in Riverhead did not permit was the sale of souvenirs and T-shirts that the Suffolk County Code actually permits. Instead, anything that wasn't, quote, farm-related had to be used for the packaging and selling and marketing. In other words,
a flower pot.
Painted flower pot,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Related
Not
to
a T-shirt as permitted under the Suffolk County Code. In addition, there are, quote, guidelines issued by New York State, and those were adopted in 2010. And if you actually look at those guidelines specifically states that there should be no restriction with respect to what is sold on farm versus off-site. However, the New York State Ag and Markets would support a municipality requiring that the majority of the produce sold would be on farm production, and this code does require the majority to be on farm production. Next, with respect to the definitions contained in this section, They can be referenced New York State Agricultural Markets Law, Section 282I, New York State Agricultural Markets Law 260, subsection 15. In addition, there was a comment made regarding the 2 acres discussed at the work session. What was discussed at the work session is that this would apply to all the zoning districts wherein agricultural production was principally permitted use, which included those residential districts and the hamlet centers. To my knowledge, there has not been, despite the fact that in those zoning districts there is no requirement as to the acreage, there has not been a proliferation of farm stands popping up. But in the one actually zoning district outlined in the comprehensive master plan and in reading the actual purpose and intent section, the agricultural protection zone is one of the predominant areas in our zoning code which actually is designed to support agricultural production and agricultural activities, and goes so far as to say that in that zoning district, it's trying to protect agriculture and stop the other uses from encroaching upon it. So it's kind of like our zoning code is doing the flip side. In that zoning code, we're more restrictive than we are in the residential zoning centers. That's about it.
All right. Yeah, and that makes no sense. Right now, like you say, there could be a rush in a 2 acre residential to put farm stands up, and it's not happening.
But they would have.
But we'd actually, this legislation takes that away. We're going to go, you've got to be greater than the existing lot. So there's no more residential would be greater than 2 acres. So pretty much.
It'd have to be the front, right? It'd have to
Right.
be.
I think we're gonna.
This is affecting a
put it
lot.
on for work session, because I don't wanna
Yeah.
get too much into
Okay,
this.
let
Yeah.
Dave have his comment. Dave
Yeah, we're
has,
gonna probably put this on for work session and maybe bring the ag people and hash it out a little bit.
it's
Our draft proposal here, if you want to call it that, is taken in many years. Every farmer in Riverhead Town, and even outside Riverhead Town, New York State. I was on the executive board for the Farm Bureau for many years. I traveled upstate, lobbied the legislature to help farming for this area. And pretty much they sent the money everywhere else but us. We have to take care of ourselves here.
Now, that's surprising. New York State wouldn't send the East
really?
End money?
That's-
Wow.
You know that, in every other element of government. And the difference, there's a big difference here in the farmland in this part of the country than anywhere else in the United States, and that's land value. And I've got young farmers coming to us at our committee, coming to the Farm Bureau saying, how can I get involved in farming? I can't afford $250,000 an acre, you know? And if they have to buy 7 acres, who's got that kind of money? Unless, you know, they inherited it, but that's not reality. We're trying to keep this open for young farmers like you and I and everybody else that started their own businesses back in the day, you know, when it was different. But we've struggled all along that time trying to sustain it as well, because everything in this area is so much more expensive. So to say this was carelessly put together with a lot of, not put into it, you're all totally mistaken about that.
Oh, I don't think anybody
This is-
bought that argument that there was a rush to do this.
I heard the
know
words.
you
I'm
guys
just
have been
saying
working with it
the
for 2
words I
years.
heard, okay?
Yeah,
So I'm just repeating that. And
All right.
anyway,
I think
just-
I think that the board's gonna have a couple comments, so we'll probably put it on for work session.
That's why we have public hearings. I love hearing with
I mean,
different takes. You gotta look at it from all angles. And it's
if
good
you
to
look
say.
at the families that have been out here for many generations, the Lewins, the Rotkamps, and tell them when they have one crop in their season and they have a crop failure that they can't go outside, say it's 100 miles or 250 miles, what's the difference? They're trying to save their farm, and that's all they're trying to do. They're not trying to bring in things from outside the area to make themselves look better.
No,
to
but
compete
we
with
can,
somebody else.
Dave, we can, Mr. McDade,
yeah,
we can,
farmers out
we
there
can
haven't learned.
put that in the code that if there's crop failure
Well,
documented.
that's just, I'm trying to just justify why we include things like that, and we're flexible with things like that as well, of course. But to just rule it out arbitrarily as a number,
Nope, I
sometimes
think
that's what it
that
has to be.
the purpose of for the public hearing.
Any farmer that has a crop failure of any kind is entitled to some relief from wherever they can get it, whether they're raising chickens or pumpkins or corn or whatever. So, and the same in the flower business. We had a major disaster hit the floriculture business with impatiens. And you're talking multi-millions of dollars that put one of my greenhouse operations out of business and put several others too, because we relied on that one crop. And, you know, we diversified into other things as well, but, you know, you have to have places to go and things to be able to, you know, keep from losing everything that you've worked 40, 50, 60 years for, you know, as well as stand up for the young farmers that want to get started here and keep this a rural community. That's all we're trying to do. You know, we can't stop Lowe's and Walmart and Home Depot and the other big box stores from coming in here and really attacking our market.
We're not going to get into a back and
No.
forth here, so.
I'm just saying.
I know,
you know,
but
it's not
this is
small
what's
farmer-
shaping up.
the comments on small
We're going to
farmers-
put this on for work. George, I think we'll put this on for work.
All right, so we'll close.
Yeah, the only thing
Yeah, I don't want to get into a back and forth. We're going to put this on for work session. We can see there's quite a bit of, quite a number of issues that we have to deal with. So what we'll do is we publish the work sessions on Thursdays, and we'll put it on, and we'll invite everybody to come sit at the table. This is not a good forum for us to do this.
I just want to say one thing.
Make it very quick if you could.
Before she gets, I just want to say one thing. Yeah,
As a young farmer, I don't have a lot of money, and I definitely cannot afford $250,000 worth of land. However, as a young person here, opening a business in the town of Riverhead, I work for a farm in the town of Southold. You create relationships with farmers in your community, and you rent land from them. There's a huge program with the Farm Bureau, the Long Island Farm Bureau in particular, that is promoting established farmers here to rent land to young farmers such as myself. And that is a program that I definitely support and I highly support. I will be renting land, and I think that that is a really good option. And I think it should stay at 7 acres. I don't think that there should be an exception for that. You can rent an acre of land that's fenced in, that has irrigation and also all the facilities that you would need, barn equipment, for at the most $450 an acre. That's the going price with the Peconic Land Trust, as far as I remember from when I asked them. So I think that that's very affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody that hasn't spoken wish to be heard? Not seeing anybody. I will leave it open for written comment to the 28th of August, and then after the 28th of August, when we get our written comments in, George will, let's invite
Well, I'll talk with the ag advisor and see what
closing both public hearings. Yeah, and we'll close, close both public hearings and leave both public hearings open for written comment until August 28th at 4:30 in the town clerk's office. And then George will talk to the Ag Advisory Committee.
See where they want to go with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, we'll probably put it on for work session, so stay tuned to the work session agenda.
So we'll only have my comments.
I just want to hear what she had.
Okay.
Probably close that.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's it.
That's it. What's your comment?
No, go ahead, you
What's
closed
your
it
comment?
already.
What's your comment? Go ahead, John, we're listening.
Huh?
All right, John,
No,
watch
I'm-
this.
I'm going-
I'm
Ag-
reopening it.
Ag-
I'm reopening it for John to make a comment. Go ahead, what's your
Ag
comment?
and Marcus is not to say it all on Long Island. Ag and Marcus is upstate. Upstate New York, 250 miles, you're still in the state of New York. George, you know that.
Yeah,
So when
well-
they make these 200 miles, you're still upstate, and most of your senators and your assemblymen are from upstate New York. So when they make these for the farmers upstate, Long Island is in a different place than upstate New York. We're a lot smaller, so you can't go with the same
And in the state of-
mileage as the
right,
state of,
because-
as the state of New York. And people have to think about that. Where is this coming from, and what are we going to do?
And you talk about the state of New York being local. We're 470 miles from Buffalo. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's a lot
Driven
further
it
if we
many
pulled in.
times.
We're a
Right,
lot further if
right.
we pulled in from
No,
New York.
So I mean,
250 is dwarfs.
yeah.
I mean, the
So-
state of New York's
so-
we're
yeah,
about
but
470 miles from
We extend
Buffalo.
into Connecticut, we extend into Jersey, Pennsylvania. So I mean, I think that we have to, if we want to support our local farmers, we have to make local laws that Long Island, it's for Long Island, like South Town. Riverhead, we could do counties or other towns on Long Island, but we should stay on Long Island to support our local industry that we have out here.
Okay.
That's it.
Does anybody else wish to be, no, we did that already. We'll close both public hearings are hereby closed for a second time, and we'll leave both of them open for written comment till August 28th, 4:30 in the town clerk's office. And from here, and then we'll probably talk to Ag and Markets, Agriculture Advisory Committee for a work session for these two hearing, two proposals. Okay. Now, 7:25, long since passed. It is now 8:17.
Well, that went on, didn't it?
We open the fourth public hearing, and this is consideration of a proposed local law amending Chapter 108, titled Vehicles and Traffic of the Riverhead Town Code, parking, stopping, standing, parking prohibited, parking hours, certain hours, Ostrander Avenue. John, I think.
Chapter 101, by the way. You said 108 again.
Did I say 108 again?
Yeah.
101-10, sorry.
Okay.
101-10 and 101-10.2, no parking certain hours, Ostrander Avenue. John, did we get it right this time?
Yeah, this is just correcting, and again, the town board does make mistakes. And when this local law was passed, people weren't thinking that no parking on Ostrander Avenue meant no parking all day and all night. And what we wanted is the aquarium parking not to affect the local people who live there. So that we're amending this to only no parking between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. May 15th through September 15th in the summertime, so we don't disturb the people who live there at 9 o'clock at night if somebody wants to come over and visit with them, or later than that. So, and we reduce it from 300 feet to 200 feet. Of course, some people complain that they park in the street in front of their house, and they will not be allowed to do that anymore. So that this is amending something that we did, and
Hopefully
things change.
All right, does anybody else wish to be heard on this matter? I like it. Not seeing anybody, we'll close the public comment portion, leave it open to written comment till August 28th at 4:30 in the town clerk's office. Does anybody wish to be heard on resolutions? Sal, how you doing?
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton. 601. No Schedule A. And is this
Oh, I have it.
housekeeping?
I do have it. Does the board have, the board has
Yep.
it? We do have it.
Okay. Is this a housekeeping resolution?
Yeah, this is something we do every year for the co-work.
So
Yes.
we already implemented it effective
Correct.
January 1st.
Yes.
.603. The old Henry Perkins Hotel is now what, an ICL or an IGHL? Does this require a fee from them as well as $50 a unit?
No.
No, why wouldn't it?
That's my question.
Why wouldn't it? Well, we still don't have it. Bob, did we fix the language in this?
Well, this is the way it went to public hearing, unfortunately, so I can't change the language after the public hearing.
I don't think they have cooking facilities inside of the rooms at the Henry Perkins.
Yes, they do.
Well, they don't have cooking
All of them?
facilities inside the rooms in motels.
Yeah, well, the
Hotels, but we charge them.
Yeah, the hotels, yes. I don't think anybody ever anticipated this to be applicable to hotels. I don't think we have this completely correct, because the point was brought up that motels, so maybe it's motels with cooking facilities. Perkins, I mean, the rooms that I've been in Perkins have kitchenettes or small kitchens.
Supposed to be served for
They're permanent residents, right?
Mm-hmm. It's concerned for
Yeah.
permanent living, and microwaves and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's a small kitchen.
They have two bedrooms.
Yeah, so they should fall within this and have to pay the fee would be my assumption, and they probably should have always been paying the fee, and I don't know whether they have. I don't know that we can answer that question. Maybe they have.
Okay. Wading River Motel,
Again, should
which
be paying.
provides housing to Chapter 8.
Yep. I spoke to one of the board members that was on the town board in 1996 when that legislation was adopted, and he told me that it was adopted for the hotels that had turned into apartments where people were living there on a, monthly basis or a 6-month basis or an annual basis. So that's what it was designed for, because he was saying that the hotels are governed under LICVB, which is a 3% tax on every hotel room, and there's $8 million collected in Suffolk County, and $2 million of that goes to Long Island CVB, or Long Island Convention Visitors Bureau, and the Suffolk County Department of Health Services comes out annually and inspects the hotels, and that's what that fee is paid for. So I don't think that it was intended for the hotels because they're already governed under Suffolk County laws. I think that it was intended for the units that are apartments where people are living there on an annual basis.
I would agree with that.
When I
Well,
read this,
Is it?
I
No, I
think
didn't
this
hear you
has
on the
to be,
video.
if we don't want to charge hotels or motels.
yeah, but this says
This
you
has
do
to be
charge.
changed, because C says any commercial hotel motel business operated exclusively and catering to transit clientele, that is, customers who commonly reside at these establishments for short durations for the purpose of vacationing, travel, business, recreational activities, conventions, emergencies, and other activities that are customary to the commercial hotel motel operator shall pay a biannual fee of $750 plus $50 for each unit for the purpose of this chapter, a short duration. We do not charge. C.
This should have been fixed in the public hearing. There was a push to get this on for the fees. I might have read a certain editorial from one of the papers that said that we didn't do anything with certain motels. I don't think we should deal with hotels. The motels that are long stay should be paying the fees. We should be inspecting them. So I'll leave it to the board. Does the board want to table this and go to public hearing again?
When I read this, okay, I expected it to not say what it says. The only change that I see is you went from biannual to biennial, and you're still charging the hotels and motels. Now, if you're not collecting the money, then there's a problem, a bigger problem than
It should
not
never
passing a
have
resolution.
It should never have gone to public hearing this way. So the question is, does the board, the attorney that wrote this didn't do what it was that we wanted him to do, quite frankly, because from day one, I think the board was against places like the Hyatt or Indigo paying these fees. That was never, I don't think, anybody on the board's intention.
Well,
so the question becomes for the board, do you want to table this?
I'd like to make a motion that we table it.
I think that we should adopt this and then just go to public hearing on the other changes having to deal with hotel motel, because we're still increasing the fees for the rental units.
All right, well, when we don't have an answer, we'll see when we vote.
Well,
What else you got,
wait,
Sal?
Hold on a minute.
John, I don't want to get into a long.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, what is, we're charging, the 1, 2, 3, 4 units, and more than 4 units, more money. What are we gonna do if we start charging them and we don't charge the $750 application or the $50? What are they gonna say? Well, there's room to say, I'm not paying either. They're not paying because your code says it, I'm not paying. So if we pass this and it takes us another year to change it, then I think we're in trouble. So I wanna make a motion, we table this.
Send it back to code revision.
Yes.
There you go. We're gonna table it, because I'll table it, and
Well, I don't think that this was.
George, what do you think?
I have a table on it.
You got a
5
table.
minutes ago.
It's got
I have a
three
note right
tables.
on it, has the table.
Sal, you got a table before we even got to a vote. What do you got? What's next?
604
Okay.
ratifies the approval of the application for fireworks permit of fireworks by Grucci, Baker Family Private Residence. I see no mention in here of the fireworks permit application fee or the administrative fee to the fire marshal.
This was paid. I did look into it, and there is an agreement, a separate agreement with the Baker family and the town attorney's office that they prepared for the event, and they're paying the same fees as Riverhead Raceway is.
Okay.
In the future,
That's what my
Bob,
question
just
was.
make sure that they put that in the resolution.
That's it.
Yeah, this was last.
All right, does anybody else wish to be heard on resolutions?
Can I make a brief comment on 603, which has just been tabled?
Well, we didn't
Hasn't been
table it
yet.
yet, but
It will be.
Okay.
We're not actually taking them up, it was just the discussion on the resolution.
I'm confused about a couple of things. No one has yet explained, at least in the coverage that I've seen, why it's okay to distinguish between motels and hotels when they both fit the same classification here.
the difference that I want to see in the code that gets drafted, if you're a long stay hotel or motel, in other words, you're more than transient, that somebody's living there for, that's their home, that's really their apartment, they're gonna pay the fee. If they're staying in a hotel room that might have a hot plate, at the Hyatt or the Radisson or something like that, for a week, couple weeks, and that's not your home, you're going to another place, this is transient, that you wouldn't pay the fee. That's what has to be articulated here.
Well, that leads into my second question. I understand why you and the rest of the board may want to change the law so it does not apply to these facilities. I don't understand why it's okay for code enforcement to either decide or be told not to enforce the law that's on the books today that you were about to reaffirm.
I don't think anybody told code enforcement anything. It's never been in fact, I can't speak to code enforcement whether they've ever collected these fees. I don't think it was ever the intention of the board when this was adopted, back whenever it was adopted before our time, to collect it on the motels. That would be, I would say you'd have to go back to the public hearing minutes of when this was adopted back in I'm assuming Supervisor Cardinale, or maybe even before, to find out what their intention was, because I don't think it was ever anybody's intention.
Jim Stark and those guys.
96, I don't think it was ever anybody's intention.
I have talked to people that were on the board at that time, and they were a little fuzzy on their intentions, but they agreed that the law as written is not ambiguous.
If I can just
say
that our code enforcement goes out and inspects the apartments, or we get an engineer's letter on the apartments. Suffolk County Department of Health Services doesn't come and inspect our apartments, but Suffolk County Department of Health Services does charge a fee and does come and inspect the hotels. The hotels and motels also pay a fee to the fire marshal to come and check the fire suppression systems. So do we make double inspections for hotels, motels from the county and from the town? And do we want another layer of government on it when this county's already doing it and charging for it? With the rental apartments, where it's an annual rental, the county doesn't come and inspect those. That's strictly the town of Riverhead and code enforcement and our laws. But hotels and motels are governed under New York State law and Suffolk County Department of Health Services law, and the laws are pretty strict. So do we want to put another layer of government over the top of that?
I tend to agree with you. And the problem is that we're discussing the merits of a law as though it hasn't been written yet.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The problem I have is that this law is unambiguous, and it has been selectively enforced, with motels paying thousands of dollars in fees and hotels paying nothing, even though they are indistinguishable in this code.
We got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on the matter?
Angela DeVito, South Jamesport. Resolution 604. I'm kind of curious. The fireworks display took place this Saturday night, and the town received on July 16th the application from Grucci, and from July 16th to now you've had two other board meetings. Why it took so long to approve? I mean, you're approving an activity after the fact, And I will tell you, there were some, as a local resident there, not an issue. The fireworks display was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Grucci does good work. No one contests that. But, and even though they were offshore on a barge, the noise levels that were produced, okay, I've been in an active war zone, the Lebanese Civil War, okay, and I know what it is to have shells exploding all around you. And when I tell you that I'm sitting in my living room with my house shaking, the windows shaking from the percussive impact of those fireworks shells going off, I would ask, I know there were 2 Riverhead Town police officers there, police department told me there, as well as our fire department. I would ask if they could provide some information about the distance offshore that this barge, fireworks barge, was, and perhaps we need to consider that in the future and make some type of requirements for this, because it was truly horrible. I mean, it was just, and I live 4 blocks from the bay.
I was on Herrick's Lane visiting with my mother
And you
and
heard
father. Unbelievable. Boom, boom, boom. You didn't know what was going on. We walked out. They were shooting up, what 10, 20 at a time? It wasn't like, this thing.
It was
They
a
were like,
22-minute show.
It literally...
All I can say is the Baker family must be incredibly wealthy.
Got our
for that,
attention.
and God bless them. But the thing is that it was an immense disturbance in the neighborhood there, and I know that the police were there, and I don't know if they could have had at that point any control. I know the inspection took place earlier in the afternoon, but also it's the fact that, can maybe we get on top of things a little bit faster? I mean, you're approving something, it already happened, and it happened without your resolution approving it. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard? There is one resolution that I'm going to ask to be tabled, and I do see Antoinette Carbone here. We did not discuss this in work session, and that was the setbacks to the triangles, to the corners, and I think
There's a resolution in here for that.
now it is. It got put in by mistake.
Farmers are gonna be hurt by
Where is it?
The last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences should be out as well, so.
So
What
we're going to table
resolution
it.
number?
599.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the table because
It was
we want.
supposed to be on for discussion in September, and I understood we're gonna try and have it on for work session.
And that got put in by
Yeah.
mistake, so we're going to table that, and
Just so you know, the last 5 sentences were.
we can table it or withdraw it. If you have to change it, then let's just withdraw it.
Yeah, it's gotta be changed.
All right, so we'll withdraw this, and then we'll put it on for work session, because it wasn't ready to go. Okay, that being said, 599. Yep, okay. All right, we're ready. Let's call the resolutions.
Resolution 588.
John, that's you.
Ready? River Ambulance District Budget Adjustment, so moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 589.
3 points member to the Board of Assessment Review, so moved.
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 590.
Accepts the resignation of a temporary clerk, so moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 591.
Appoints a call-in detention attendant, so moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 592.
Ratifies appointment of a temporary substitute part-time clerk to the sewer district. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 593.
This approves the transfer of the Geographic Information System Supervisor. So moved.
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
I just want to say that this is a very valued employee, and I did have a chance to speak to him for a little while today, and he said he felt guilty about leaving the town of Riverhead because he loves the town and he loves the employees, but he got an offer in Smithtown where they could afford to pay him more money, and so we made the decision to let him transfer. And he said that he'll come back on a part-time basis and work from his desktop at home to help us out as we need it, and I think that's a good thing. So for now, I'll vote yes for this.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Sorry to see him go. It's too bad we couldn't work something out.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 594.
Authorize attendance of one police department employee to the 2015 IACP conference. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 595.
Authorization to publish advertisement for junk and abandoned vehicles for the town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 596.
I'd like to put 596 to 598. They all have to do with recreation, either lifeguards or attendants, in one motion.
Okay, so let's make the motion, appoints a seasonal lifeguard to the Recreation Department. Casey Plitt, appoints seasonal recreation beach attendants to the Recreation Department, that's 597, and that's last name, was that Bonnie, Bone, Divan, Estrella, Finkenagel, Stevenson, and Tuthill, and appoints a call-in park attendant to the Recreation Department, Bone again, Bone, I don't have any fancy name, I just got a,
So move.
Bonet, I saw the little, thing on it, whatever that is called.
So move.
I'll second it.
You're gonna second
I
it?
second
Okay.
it. Moved and seconded to move all three as once.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolutions 596, 97, and 98 are adopted. Resolution 599.
We're going to withdraw resolution number 599, which authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a public notice for a local law to consider amendment to chapter 108 entitled zoning of the Riverhead Town Code.
Okay. John, you
I
second?
second that.
All right, moved and seconded as to withdraw.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution 599 is withdrawn. Resolution 600.
Approves Francis Site Development Company LLC as drain layer for the Riverhead Sewer Districts. So moved.
I'll second. Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 601.
Authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Family Service Lead for Employee Assistance Program. So moved.
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gableson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 602.
Adopts a local law to amend Chapter 101 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Rivertown Code, and that's 101-3, stop and yield intersections, railroad crossings, parking fields, and that would be Toomey Avenue intersecting with Riley Avenue and Youngs Avenue. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This concerns me just because of the speed people pick up on Toomey Avenue, and I'm really concerned about this resolution.
Because they pick up speed.
Well, when they're going from north to south, and then when they're coming from Sound Avenue and then headed south to Manor, they're not used to stopping there. And if they don't stop and someone gets a false sense of security where they're on Riley Avenue and they think that that person's gonna stop and they don't, and they keep going, I'm concerned about that. So I think that we really need, I'm gonna vote for it, but, because I think it's needed right by the school, but I think that we need plenty of notification ahead of time when you're traveling from the north to the south to let people know that there's a stop sign ahead, so that they do stop at that new stop sign that we're putting there, so,
We could put on a sign that says stop ahead in large letters.
yeah. They have those.
Before, they have
Yeah.
those signs.
Yeah.
So,
Who's the liaison? Who's the highway superintendent talk to? Let's get that stop ahead put in there too.
Sure it'll be clearly marked.
Okay, good.
So that
Can
was
we-
a yes from
Yes.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
yes.
Walter. Resolution adopted. Resolution 603.
Going to go back to
I
the
think
drawing
we're
board on
going
this.
to withdraw this one as well at this point.
Withdraw or table?
I would withdraw because this isn't
Has to
going
be
anywhere.
changed.
Can we get a motion to withdraw this one?
Maybe somebody else can make that motion.
I make a motion that we withdraw, resolution 603.
You withdraw on the table?
So moved.
I will withdraw because it's got to be fixed all the way around. Okay.
You second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded as to withdraw.
Giglio.
Town really needs the money, and I think that increasing the fees is something that we need to do, and I think we could have done that tonight, so I'm gonna vote no to withdraw.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
I agree, we do need the money, but the substance of it has to be correct also.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have to withdraw it and put it back on the books. Yes.
I agree we need the money, but I agree also that section C should be enforced. If we need the money that bad, and it's not being enforced, so I have to vote yes to withdraw it.
Walter?
Yes, we have to table it, withdraw it, because the bottom line is, we have to correct the wrong that we have been following since 1996 with the fact that we haven't been charging hotels for these fees, and it's time to correct that, adopt it. So, yes.
Resolution 603 is withdrawn. Resolution 604.
Ratifies the approval of the application for fireworks permit of fireworks by Gucci Incorporated, Baker Family Private Residence. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
And I agree with the comments, we should get more time to approve these and let people know what's happening. I vote yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 605.
Well, let's see, this is a couple of weeks. Approves Chapter 90 application of Railroad Museum of Long Island for the Riverhead Railroad Festival 2015, August 29 and 30th. So,
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
yes.
Dunleavy?
Yeah, this is a great thing for your family to come to see, especially with the kids riding on a model train. I vote yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 606.
Authorize supervisor to execute an agreement between Enernoc, Inc. and the town of Riverhead. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 607.
Ratifies the approval of the Chapter 90 application of Home Depot Development of Maryland Incorporated for carpet and rug tent sale, August 13th, 2015 through September 7th, 2015. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 608.
Approves the Chapter 90 application of Old Steeple Community Church Annual Antique Fair, Saturday, August 22nd, 2015. So moved.
Yes, it's Saturday. Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 609.
This approves the application for fireworks permit of Riverhead Raceway for August 22nd. So moved.
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 610.
I did get the easement, water easement, signed it for Stoneley and
Get out.
Charlie Cuddy. Can you imagine the first one? Charlie Cuddy is recording it, so we can move this forward.
Excellent.
Well, that's good. That's a
Thank
good deal.
God.
Okay, 610?
Yes, please
Okay.
call.
Releases performance security, accepts one-year maintenance security in connection with the condominium project entitled Stonely Woods of Riverhead LLC, and its road and drainage improvement, section 1. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 611.
Amends Resolution 514 of 2015 and authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Riverhead Housing Development Corporation. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 612.
Authorizes the acceptance of a donation from Riverhead Adventures LLC, Long Island Adventure Race, AKA Team Long Island Adventure. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Very generous donation. We thank them. Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yeah, I really want to thank Long Island Adventure Race. They put a great race out at EPCAL. And I want to thank Chris and Ronnie Witt for the donation of $4,000, I think, to the state, the different events they had. They've already donated close to $13,000 to the town towards recreation. So really appreciate it. A big thank you to them. Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes, I'd like to thank him for the donation.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 613.
We like Chris Witt so much, we're going to reappoint member to the Town of Riverhead Wildlife Management Advisory.
What's the chances? 2 in a row?
So moved.
I could just say no.
In fact, he's paying us to volunteer.
And seconded, and he's also a volunteer.
Moved and seconded.
He's also going to the Cardboard Boat Race as one of our judges, volunteers.
Uh-oh.
Great guy.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 614.
Reappoints member to the Town of Riverhead Wildlife Management Advisory Committee. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Abstain, that's my son.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 615.
Pays the bills. So moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, now we open it up for public comment for anything that you might want to talk to the board. We ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes. All right. How you doing, sir?
Good evening, how are you tonight?
State your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Scott Koretsky. I'm the director of Suffolk Healthcare Cannabis Alliance. And I am here this evening to just briefly, it's late, I read and is concern to me and a lot of people across Suffolk County that you are considering a moratorium on opening up the medical marijuana dispensary here in the town of Riverhead. Now, I don't know if you know any relatives, family, friends with children with epilepsy that are going to be helped by this medicine. We allow pharmacies to sell. At this point, the FDA has approved OxyContin for 11-year-olds, but we're going to stop dispensary, which is basically going to be a pharmacy, from opening up here to help conditions that a lot of other drugs can't help. A lot of other drugs you become addicted to, compared to if you do the research and you really educate yourself as to the good of medical marijuana. I think you may change your mind and see this another way.
How do people get it now?
Nobody can get it yet.
Okay, but if they open one up in somewhere else in western Suffolk County, you're telling me that people from Riverhead can't get it from there?
They certainly can.
Can people get it by mail?
Not as yet. You must be a
Okay.
caregiver.
I mean, New York State just approved this law, correct?
No kidding, and there's a lot of flaws, and myself and many other people, including the Compassionate Care in New York, are going to be fighting for a lot of changes in the Compassionate Care Act, because it is an abomination to both the patients and to any entrepreneurs and to, the business community itself. So instead
Well,
of...
I can tell you that I lost my first husband to lung cancer, and I can tell you that his brother did bring over some marijuana for him, and it did help with his nauseousness, and it did help with everything to get him through that rough time. And I understand that there is a need for it, and I understand that there are children with epilepsy, and I don't have a problem with medical marijuana, but I need to know the impacts on the Riverhead community before I say that we support it coming here to Riverhead. I need to know if it's going to affect our police department. I need to know if the county's going to be giving us any of that money that they're going to be getting from the 7% before we actually just say, come. So there's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and that's why it was discussed. It is so new, and I don't have a problem with medical marijuana. I have a problem with not knowing the impact that it would have on the Riverhead community.
I agree 100%. To put a moratorium at this moment, to not allow it at all, is definitely something that is...
I think you're mistaken. We're not putting a moratorium not to allow medical marijuana. We're putting a moratorium. Have you ever driven on County Road 58? Have you ever driven?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
That road
yes.
is horrendous. The lanes are narrower than other lanes. We have to look at the impact. We're here for the taxpayers of the town of Riverhead, how this is going to impact them. Let them put it over on County Road 104 off of Sunrise Highway. Everybody can go over there. They have less traffic over there than we do on County Road 58. I'm not against medical marijuana. I'm for it. I was for farming it. The problem is we have to, like Councilwoman Giglio said, we have to study the traffic. and how it's going to impact our residents of the town of Riverhead. So don't say that we're against medical marijuana. We're not. Yes, you did. You, right? We're not against medical marijuana. We're against the traffic it may bring, and we have to study it. Okay? People get me upset when they say this. We're not against medical marijuana.
Have we discussed your concerns with the organization as yet?
We haven't had that opportunity to yet. Someone from your office came and met with the supervisor, and I believe the supervisor's trying to set up.
That has nothing to do with this gentleman, I don't know.
No, it has nothing to do, I believe it's Columbia Care.
We're playing telephone tag. I called
particular license.
We only found out about this 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
As we all did.
So we have to study it before I put my hands on it and say this is great for everybody and for the residents of the town of Riverhead. Okay? My residents can go over to Southampton, they can go into Brookhaven, right? So,
good luck in Brookhaven.
Well, this is it, see?
But the town board has to do a due diligence. That's the only way we can do this. We just found out. How long ago did they know they selected that spot?
I could not answer.
They should have came to us, a month ago, 2 months ago. And everything is just thrown on us. Of course we can't approve it. So, we've got to do a due diligence.
The way the whole system was created was kind of bass-backwards, per se, is that they should have had people bring them permits from every dispensary that was supposed to open before they allowed to give them a license. But, that's the issue that we're going to be bringing up with the Department of Health when we go to them in the next few weeks. So
the reality is that the town, will say this, it won't get zoned out of existence, but where it winds up may be, as I've said, more in line with where we put our adult uses, because I'll be honest with you, there may be some really great medicinal purposes of marijuana. This is my humble opinion. This has zero to do with medical marijuana. This is the incremental legalization of pot. And if that's where this is going, it does not belong on Route 58.
Agreed.
It belongs where we have our adult uses, and it will get relegated to places like EPCAL, where there are no schools, there are no houses of worship, there are no houses. It's just all industrial.
Agreed.
And so Columbia Care would do well to heed my suggestion, and that was my suggestion when I met with them 4 days after it was announced by the governor's office. EPCAL might be the place they were looking at. They were not interested in that. So we will be moving forward accordingly.
But we have to put laws in place that protect us if it ever does become a legal retail use, that you can't do it there.
Right.
So, I mean,
it is only approved in New York State for, they're not selling an eighth of an ounce of bud, okay? They're going to be either capsules, or it will be a tincture or an oil that must be vaporized. It is not at all going to be, selling like they do in Colorado.
For now.
Here,
for now.
62
I agree with you, Sean.
brands of different
For now.
strains of marijuana. So
For now. And that's, we don't just look at one moment in time. We've got to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture flows from places like Colorado and other states to the west of us. So if we're going to regulate it, we're going to regulate it for the bigger picture.
Understood, but I do appreciate you allowing me to be heard this evening. And
Not a problem. Where are you from, sir?
I live in Mount Sinai.
Oh, well, not too far.
No, not too far at all.
Have a safe trip home and be well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening.
Does anybody else wish to be heard? All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Vote please. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Every meeting is going 2 hours now. I don't understand.
I said the same thing. There's just, yeah, 10 prescriptions a day. They go